Thank you very much for coming to join us in this important discussion on women's economic empowerment and strengthening democracy, specifically through entrepreneurship. Today's discussion will revolve around the basic premise that when 50% of your population has access and space to participate economically and politically and has a stake in policymaking and legislative reform, this inherently strengthens a country's democracy, not to mention the global economy. For those unfamiliar with CIPE, CIPE is one of the core institutes of the National Endowment for Democracy and an affiliate of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. CIPE works at the intersection of economic development and democratic development. And one of CIPE's key issues is women's entrepreneurship. Through our partnerships and global programs, we work to strengthen the institutions that support women's economic empowerment, specifically, or among others, rule of law and property rights. CIPE works with women's business associations around the world, providing the skills needed so that these associations may advocate effectively for policy reform, to lower the barriers for women to start their own businesses, to run and grow their own businesses. So today's panel is it's a panel of longtime friends with CIPE and a panel of experts. And each are definite change makers in their own right, and it's a real honor and privilege for me to be on the stage with all of you today. With that, I will begin introductions. Salima Ahmad is the founder of the Bangladesh Women's Chamber of Commerce. She is the recipient of numerous awards, including the Islamic Development Bank's Award for Women's Economic Development, the Jean J. Kirkpatrick Award, and also the prestigious Oslo Business Award for Peace. Next to Salima is Marina Stadthagen, the Executive Director of Red de Empresarias de Nicaragua, also the network of Nicaraguan businesswomen, or known by the acronym REN. Marina has previously served as an advisor to the National Business Federation of Nicaragua, and she also holds a Master's of International Affairs from Columbia University. Next to Marina is Karen Kerrigan. Karen is the President and CEO of the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council and the Vice Chair of CIPE's Board of Directors. Karen often testifies before U.S. Congress on key issues impacting entrepreneurs and the economy, and she's a founding member of the World Entrepreneurship Forum. Every year since 2011, she has made the list of top 100 champion small business influencers by Small Business Trends, and CEO World Magazine has named Karen a top power woman in crowdfunding. So thank you again all for being here today.
Thank you.
So today's event is meant to be more of a conversation, and I invite the panelists to jump in at any time to dig in deeper or ask follow-up questions. Today we'll have about 45 minutes to an hour for our discussion, and then we'll open up to the floor for question and answer. So everyone get your questions ready. To get the ball rolling, I'll ask the same question to each of you. What led you down the path of entrepreneurship? And Salima, I will start with you.
Okay. For me it is like how I would like to see myself. When I was married so young, and I was in the 12th grade, so I was thinking that if I don't continue my studies and not being economically empowered, that what will happen to me? I was seeing all my relatives and mothers and sisters, that how voiceless they are, not being economically empowerment. So for me, it's that the perception of entrepreneurship is empowerment. The perception of entrepreneurship can lead you to equality, and also a voice as a human being, and that is not only about myself but for the women entrepreneurs of Bangladesh.
And Marina, how about yourself?
Well, I got started working with women entrepreneurs when I was working at the umbrella organization for business in Nicaragua. And usually women's organizations say that the businesswomen were the latecomers into the gender issues, into the business. They didn't have a voice, so we started a group. And later we founded REN, the same woman that wanted a voice in the business world in Nicaragua. So that's how I got started with the women entrepreneurs. I think they have not been allowed to bring into the economy what they have. And if they are given the opportunity, they could really help the development of the country.
Karen, what led you down the path of entrepreneurship?
Well, I've been a social entrepreneur and also an entrepreneur doing with multiple businesses in the past. And I think really the big thing for me, or one of the key things, was certainly financial opportunity and independence. But more important than that, I think, was just the freedom and the independence in terms of being able to take my ideas and innovations and to move them into the marketplace and not be, restricted like I felt like I had been in some of my jobs or throughout my career, although I certainly appreciate, all of those. The other big thing for me was also, as I got older and had a family, the whole issue of, I began to see my time and my energy as finite resources and very precious resources. So, working on my own terms and sort of, controlling my own time, it certainly didn't mean I worked any less. In fact, I worked harder, but just having that flexibility was really important. And so that flexibility was important, and I was able to, actually embed that throughout my entrepreneurial career.
That's fantastic. So Karen, we'll stay on you for this next question. You've been an advocate for nearly 25 years on shaping policy and having an influence to lower barriers for women to enter entrepreneurship. How important have you found it in your experience that women who are business owners, who are entrepreneurs, get involved in the policy advocacy sphere or get involved in the political process?
Oh, it's critical. When women have been involved both on broad issues, broad entrepreneurial and small business issues that we've worked on, we've seen the ball move a lot quicker. But also, I think the style and the strengths that successful women entrepreneurs bring to the process is really critical. They tend to be very inclusive, collaborative, and we need that type of style when it comes to the policymaking process to make sure that all voices are being heard, and that certainly is valued by successful women entrepreneurs. And when women bring that into the policymaking process, into the political process, we're going to have better policy outcomes. So the voice is critical not only in terms of moving the ball and getting involved with the issues, but also the style that they bring to the process to ensure that the policymaking process in the end is going to be inclusive.
Salima, I'll have this next question for you. I've heard you say in other settings that for you, democracy means having a voice. And for your experience, how are Bangladeshi women, through entrepreneurship, able to have that voice?
Thank you. I think for Bangladeshi women at the moment is taking a lead to be equal, a lead to have a better life, and also showing the world that we are equal. And I think here Center for International Private Enterprise has played a very important role. Because when we started the Women's Chamber in 2001, we started the chamber, we had some projects, we were doing training, but the voice was not heard. Okay, we were building the capacity. But when we needed some policies, especially access to finance, which is a huge problems for all over the world, but especially for the South Asian, where we don't have property in our name. So having bigger loan without collateral was a very much challenge. And here CIPE has helped us to do advocacy and build advocacy team. I think this was very important. And as you were saying that voice could be heard through this advocacy team. But before that, capacity building was very important, which we did a partnership with CIPE. And for that, the whole scenario has changed. We had a policy without collateral and low rate of interest. And now I think US dollars, some billions of dollars has been given to many women entrepreneurs. And as a woman, I always say that, when we can take a lead, then we can see the effectiveness of democracy. And then entrepreneurship and with the partnership with CIPE and BWCCI, that lead has started. I think that is a pathway of having that equal rights, and the equal participation and protection of human rights, and how we can protect our human rights. Because when I see Golapi, who has been beaten by her husband and had so less resources, when we build her capacity with WDN, with IRI, and also gave her an access to finance with a bank, and she started her business, she grown her business, and now she says that she has a better life, and that voice is heard not only, we always think about, for a Bangladeshi woman where 87% women faces domestic violence. The voice need to be heard at her house, at the community, and forget about the state level, that's much bigger scenario, but what about at home? So I think that entrepreneurship and democracy walks hand by hand, and for that policy advocacy is very important, and here I think CIPE plays a very important role, because we have done about 26 or 27 projects with different donors, different partner organizations, but everyone is like, it's like tangible. Okay, you do a project with banana fiber, you show us how you are producing the banana fibers, you do a project with renewable energy, you see how you do make the improved cook strips and how the entrepreneurs are doing. But with the side work, it's not very visible, but it sustains and it changes the whole system. That's what I love, and that's why I'm sticking with CIPE all the time.
Great. We want you to
because because that is important. That protection of civic rights, protection of human rights, and our women are also now voice of facing all the corruption issues. Because if there any corruption, this advocacy team are vibrant, they're going, they're talking that no, you cannot take any bribe. So for me, I always feel like that entrepreneurship can bring for a woman entrepreneurs for a small country like ours, and especially Southeast Asia and all over the world, that if you would like to see democracy, we would like to see more women into economy, and how we can see it is more into entrepreneurship.
Marina, how about your experiences with REN? Have you seen a natural progression of women entrepreneurs moving over into the policy reform space, or does it take some nudging by organizations like yours?
I think that as they come into the business world, as they become entrepreneurs, they come to face with all the obstacles that are put there for all the businesses, but because women are time poor, because they have to do all the homework, the child care, the work at home, they become aware of the government deficiencies, and they become more outspoken on what they need. It's really important that they have an organization like REN or an agenda like the one we have built, so they can influence the policy, and they can give opinions on what they think. So you definitely need to organize women. I mean, it's not going to happen alone. You need an organization. You need an agenda, a common agenda for businesswomen that they can put forward to try to change policy. Because it's amazing what women can do with a little help. I've seen cases of women with no education that have grown to very decent businesses that can help them educate their kids, and they just needed credit. We have an amazing example of one lady that no education, second grade education. It is up for her second hardware store, in a small town. And it's amazing. You just need a little bit, but you need the credit. You need the access to credit for women.
Yeah, it does seem like access to finance and access to credit globally is difficult, and more difficult for women in some cases. Like, any better?
No.
How about now?
I think maybe put it on this side. That way. Put it on the other side.
Hello? No? How about now? No? No? I'll go like this. How's that?
Should we all do that? There's someone on this side.
I think it's okay now.
Okay.
You don't need to hold.
No, it's okay now? All right. So Marina, I think what you were talking about with access to credit and access to finance is something that we hear. So I focus on South Asia, but it's definitely something that we hear globally. And I think, yes, providing the skills and the capacity to be able to know how to fill out big bank forms and what sort of information you need to bring to the bank to be able to properly apply and get the credit is also something that organizations like yourselves and BWCCI work very hard on.
No, I just want to, sorry, I just want to add one thing that, you know, for each country, the private sector development is so important because it generates employment. And country like Bangladesh and Southeast Asia, they have a huge population. Who is going to generate this employment? It's the private sector. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, when as forming the Women's Chamber now, we are seeing that everyone is trying to engage us, because we are becoming powerful. It's a powerful group. So all the development partners, all the activist organization, be it a democracy-oriented, be it a corruption, anti-corruption-oriented, or a human rights-oriented organization, they are all coming to BWCCI and trying to take us with that movement. But that is what you are saying about that voice. That voice is not only about the private sector. As a women's chamber, you know, when you become powerful or you become resourceful, you can become a voice for all the other activities, which ultimately will be a wholesome of democracy. Mm-hmm. So you are on the process of all the activities, and now you can see that all our members, the divisional, the grassroots members, are participating in different city corporations events, you know, even in the election procedures. So they are becoming a voice, and that's the beauty of private sector, and that's the beauty of policy advocacy, and that's the beauty of women's economic empowerment.
Definitely. Karen, I think outside of the U.S., sometimes women look into the U.S. and say, oh, this is an ideal situation for women. Women have it made in the private sector in the U.S. In your experience, what sort of challenges remain, and where are changes still needed in our own domestic situation?
Well, the more I travel, I mean, I've been traveling the world now for close to 20 years and meeting with entrepreneurs around the world, and all of our challenges are the same with women entrepreneurs in terms of access to capital, access to market, in terms of, you know, the type of educational resources we have. Certainly, you know, in some countries it's worse than others, but, you know, you've got to remember, you know, in the U.S., that, gosh, it's only been 27 years, 1988, that Reagan signed the Women's Business Ownership Act. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, in some states, females had to get, you know, male relatives to sign loans for them, bank loans. And the government didn't know how many women business owners there were. We didn't have a voice, the National Women's Business Council, which was established, you know, by HR 5050, the National Women's Business Owner Act. And we didn't have the National Women's Business Centers, which are educational training centers for women entrepreneurs. But so since then, there has been an explosion in women entrepreneurship. I mean, certainly technology, you know, has played, I think, a key role, definitely, in terms of making it easier and more efficient to start businesses. But even though the legal you know, barriers have come down, there's still institutional and you know, cultural barriers, and we're still grappling with them. Whether it's, you know, access, you know, to certain markets. I mean, certainly access to capital. When you look at venture capital, in terms of the amount that women entrepreneurs receive, is still underrepresented. If you look at certain markets, for example, in the federal government procurement marketplace. I mean, there's a rule, it says we're supposed to get 5%,
Right.
of government contracts. I mean, certainly we believe it should be much more than that. But I mean, there's still things that we're doing to open up, those type of markets, to women entrepreneurs too. I think, what we've been really focusing on is strengthening the networks that we have, holding people accountable that say, well, we loan money to women entrepreneurs, we do business with women entrepreneurs. Well, there's metrics to count that now to actually see if that actually does happen. And then, but technology, I think, is really being quite helpful. When you talked the introduction in terms of crowdfunding, that offers women entrepreneurs a tremendous opportunity to access equity, and debt-based capital. We still have to push some things through the Securities and Exchange Commission to make the Jobs Act, which made equity and debt-based crowdfunding legal. There's still work for us to do on that front. But with all the alternative financing, I mean, technology, tends to be gender neutral when on that front. So we got to make sure that all that's happening in the marketplace now, in terms of alternative financing, in terms of crowdfunding, that government doesn't do too many things that stop that in its track before it can help more women entrepreneurs.
Right. Yeah, it's very. Salima or Marina, how, like in Bangladesh or Nicaragua, is crowdfunding something that entrepreneurs are starting to look at, women entrepreneurs? We've talked about it.
Yeah, it has been started. Mostly the educated young girls, and they have started, but not with the grassroots or small entrepreneurs. That message has not been there. But I think it's very important now to go and start working with the crowdfunding.
Right.
In Nicaragua, it's not yet something they're working with.
Yeah.
They go more. Women usually are with the microfinancing institutions where they get the money, but still it's very high interested. The big problem, I think, is when they're trying to grow from very small to medium size. That's where the lack of financing really is.
Right.
And that has to do with the banks. And we would like the banks to see us as a big market more than anything,
Right.
And I think you can do it, like in Bangladesh, it was a land of microcredit. But when we started the policy advocacy with CIPE, one of our issues was having low rate of interest and without collateral.
Right.
And that has happened. Now, women are going to the bank, and all the banks, if you land in Bangladesh, you will see big billboard that, that bankers are giving bank loans. And Bangladesh Bank also has done, it's like that if a bank doesn't give 15% bank loan, SME bank loan to women entrepreneurs, they are not going to get credit for the entire SME loan. So this, which we again have done with our policy advocacy, that because mostly bank was not giving, not very keen to give it. So now if they need 100% bank loan to give for the SME entrepreneurs, they have to show that thing. So that we have done. So if you do policy advocacy, and I think the empowerment and the voice, if you would like to say, which you have started with, and that voice can be heard when people are more empowered. Microcredit is more livelihood, because as I am from Bangladesh and I know microcredit, and it's more livelihood that you are starving and at least you have some food, you can eat, you can sleep. But what about that empowerment? What about the voice? What about equality? And what about inclusiveness? And all these comes when I come to the mainstream, because for women, we should not see as like a small, human being who can be only in a small thing. We have to come into mainstream and want to be equal. And without equality, the main, core heart of democracy, the equality, how we can have it? Coming into mainstream, being economically empowered with it. So we have started Empower 5000, which that's my dream. I'd like to see that the women entrepreneurs in Bangladesh are big industrialists, having their own helicopters. This is my dream I have, and being like a real tycoon, so
Right.
that, oh, women entrepreneurs is like micro. No, women entrepreneurs like big industrialists.
Right,
So
right.
this is a dream I have, and I'm sure we'll be able to do it if we can. Again, the democracy issues that come, that whether all rule of laws are applicable or the procedures are equal to all citizens.
Right, right.
Because if it is not, then again we have to fight, again we have to raise voice. So it's like a chicken and egg, you don't have it, you don't stop, you have to raise your voice. And that helped us for the Women's National Business Agenda.
Right.
And our Women's National Business Agenda, actually many other organizations are taking that report and trying to see that how they can adapt and they can do it. And Bangladesh, the deputy governor, there are 3 deputy governors of the Central Bank of Bangladesh. There was no woman. In our Women's National Business Agenda, we actually asked for a woman. And now when I look back, when I did the Women's National Business Agenda with CIPE, and now we look back, that many we have achieved. So you can establish a benchmark by having all this thing written and documented and consulting with the people. Because that is very important, because National Business Agenda actually help the group of women to identify their issues, and it's like a way forward, how you are going to move forward. So it's like a guidance. I think that these are very important. Building the capacity, like we have done with the Papua New Guinea.
Right. Another
so,
CIPE program.
Yeah, it's a CIPE program,
Right.
So another CIPE, and I was there, and with the South, the South Asia
Right.
Business Women's Network, how you can see the changes, the day we have started the work. And now if you see all these, Peshawar Women Chamber and other
Right.
Pakistan Women Chamber group, it's so different. So you can see that their voice is there now. Earlier the voice was low.
Right, and it's getting
So-
louder.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
getting louder.
Yeah, which is very good. Yes, we've heard from our other, when we've met in other situations, I remember one of our members in South Asia saying that they didn't feel like a true citizen and didn't have a voice until they actually started paying taxes. That once they saw some of their paycheck going to the government, getting out of the microfinance level and moving into this SME level, and they saw that some of the earnings that they had were actually going to the government, they're like, hey, I have a say in what this government's doing now, and so I'm going to make my voice heard. And it was more of a natural progression. Once you had that sort of empowerment, like something, I have any sort of relationship with the government, that must mean something. So Marina, how about in Nicaragua? Like, do you see as women become more economically empowered, that they start demanding better governance?
Yes, I think as they go out into the business world, like I say, they when it takes them 3 hours to get a permit, or they lose 3 months out of the year, which is something, it is already, we did a study, and in permits you more or less lose 3 months of the year getting permits for different businesses. They become aware of that, and they start asking, demanding that be changed. So as they become business women, they start demanding more from the government. They empower themselves to demand.
Right, rightly so. One of CIPE's programs, or something that we do with our women's business associations, is set up mentorships as well. Marina Salima is a fantastic mentor for our South Asia Women's Program, and has really held the hands of women in Sri Lanka and Pakistan and Nepal, bringing them to a level where they can effectively advocate for policy reform. I think a lot of people would like to be mentors and give something back and sort of help others get to the level that you're at. Maybe we could just go ask everyone the same question about mentorship. How important do you feel mentorship is for women once they're entrepreneurs, to guide others who are either new to entrepreneurship or new to the policy reform sphere? And Karen, we'll start with you.
Well, from the women's entrepreneur perspective, I know, mentors are critical in terms of their business growth. I mean, any successful woman entrepreneur, when she looks back on the growth of her business, can point to individuals, people that have helped her along the way. And for the most part, since she maybe started that business with a mindset for growth, she's moving to people that can help her to get there. And so, but mentors play a critical role, as do role models as well. I mean, when I think of mentors in my life, I mean, there are people that I had daily contact with, weekly contact with, some twice a year contact with. I mean, they're people that I can look to and how they did things, and learn from them and emulate them, and embed them, in the way that I do business to be more successful. So mentors are very critical, but again, and role models. We cannot underestimate the power of role models, and just, the need to continually raise profile successful entrepreneurs, successful women political leaders, and put them out there in front of other women, do what we can to champion them, congratulate them, allow them, to tell their stories. And, thank goodness we have technology. We could do that in a lot of different ways now, right? Through social media. Right. But we have to continue to tell the story, I think, of over and over and over again, because there are, still a lot of women, a lot of girls, who need that encouragement on a daily basis.
Yeah, definitely. Marina?
Oh no, definitely. I'm a firm believer in mentorships. We had 2 programs financed by CIPE for mentors. We had a different type of mentoring. It was a micro businesswoman with a student with a more experienced businesswoman, and that worked really well, because it was a threesome that worked very well. And that program, we had fantastic stories of success, of growth from not only the student but also the micro entrepreneurs, how they grew, not only in their businesses but personally, how they became leaders later on. And I think that mentorship is not only for the business part, but it's also for the advocacy part. We should have mentorship just for the advocacy part, because
definitely
it works very well how they can learn from more experienced women. Because sometimes they're afraid going into leadership roles in some of the chambers and that, and it has worked well when we had someone sort of guide another woman into what they need to do and how they can do it, and how they can go into an area that has been usually just for men. It has been the business chambers in Nicaragua has been a man territory, and some women are just afraid of going in. So I think that for that area, mentorship are crucial, and we are doing that in an informal and also in a formal way in the REN.
That's great. And Salima, I mean, you have lots of experience in mentorship.
Yeah, if I talk about myself first,
yes, please.
Whatever I could do for myself and for the community, it was all through that someone mentored me. I was a mentee. The policy advocacy or the Women's Chamber, CIPE was not there. I don't know whether we could have done so well or not. So that's very important for a woman, especially in our part of the world, for the developing world, where the democracy, rule of law, the corruption or the transparency is not very much there. So you have to have a mentorship. And then about the work which we have done, as a women's chamber, if you could see that so many policy changes has been done, the entrepreneurship has flourished, because this Chamber of Commerce is like a mentorship, because you do policy advocacy, do capacity building for the women. But our experience with the South Asia Business Network, Business Associations Network, where when Shama was sitting with Shama was Peshawar Women Chamber sitting with the governor of that Peshawar province, and she wanted to know what we have done with the Bangladesh Bank. So she sent me an SMS. I just said, Salima, send me the answer now, what you have achieved from your policy advocacy, and send me. So within a second I said, okay, I have to. So within a second I sent her a SMS, and with that she argued with the central bank, with the governor. So this network and it's giving her information at the right time, at the right moment, and where she can get it, just so using the technology is very important, and that has facilitated and how we can do that work. And about the role model, I had a very interesting thing. We are from Dhaka, very successful women entrepreneur, went to Sylhet. Sylhet is a very conservative area. And we had some entrepreneur from small town of Sylhet also. They had lots of problems. The brothers are not allowing her to work. So lots of issues. And when we started talking, each one of us, and when we ended, everyone was crying, and we found that we are all in the same boat. We all faced same sort of issues. We all has maybe not similar, but different type of issues, but the sadness, the frustration was same, but we could all overcome because we had a platform. That's very important. And that role model was there to support and showcase. And then when we end the event, and then the one young girl, she said that she had to have so much struggle for being an entrepreneur. And then she said, no, today I'm feeling very confident. It was not me that who has suffered so much. It is everyone as a woman, we had to face this sort of journey. So I feel now very happy, So I think this having this role model and sharing your experiences, sharing your stories, and the group, that's the charm of Chamber of Commerce, that you have a group, you are no more alone. So that support group is very much there. And for our type of country and our type of economic situation, if you have a group, you don't feel lonely.
Right.
So that.
That's very similar in our country. I think a lot of the women entrepreneurs that we get involved in the process, initially they're very threatened by the people or the process itself. They don't know. They look at Washington and this big brawling, the bureaucracy, and they look at the craziness of it, what they hear on the TV, and like, why do I even want to go there? But, but once they find out that it's sort of like a marketplace, that, they're disrupting the marketplace, right, in the private economy, but then they start viewing it as, oh, this is a political marketplace I have to disrupt as well, and showing up matters, and telling my story matters, and selling my, sort of my view, or what business, or what government needs to do or not do, to help, help my business. But I think, from my perspective, it's just, you're right. Having someone there that can help them first navigate, the process itself, or where to go first, and then from there it sort of takes on a life of its own. But I agree, sort of the group, the unity, the coalition, action. Yes, really helps.
Yeah, Karen, maybe, you have many years of working on policy advocacy initiatives. Do you have any words of advice for our audience? Is there anything that you think everyone should know from what you've learned in policy advocacy?
Yeah, showing up matters. Getting involved really matters. I think people think that, oh, they're not going to listen to me. I'm just one voice, out of millions. But it does matter. And your voice does matter, and you can be heard. And that it's critical that every women entrepreneur does step up and become involved in the process. They can make a difference. I've seen people make a difference. Look at what's happening in these countries by women becoming involved, and your voice should be heard. And you're entitled for your voice to be heard, and we owe it to our children, whether they're females or males, into future generations. But I would just say, just take the plunge, step up, become involved, and you'll be really surprised at how willing people are listening to you because you're a fresh voice that they're hearing, as opposed to maybe the traditional lobbyists and this sort of the same group of people that come through their offices every day. And then again but to get involved, I think, with other women entrepreneurs or a group, because together you can be have much more impact a lot quickly, a lot more, yeah.
I think, in policy advocacy, you should be very positive. Especially, in our part of the world, the government don't like very much criticism. And
The main part, I would say.
seriously. But on the other hand, government also wants to bring differences. Government wants that good things happen, because their political parties, they also want to run and win in the next term. So if you can showcase the government that these policy will bring benefits to a group of people, then they also become interested. So whatever we have done, we always could show the government that if you bring these policies, these are the changes will happen. This will bring benefit to the nation. This will bring benefit to this community. So if you always criticize the government and put it in a negative way and then do the lobbying and policy advocacy, it doesn't make very successful, or government is not very willing to do it. So our approach, and also I always advise our members that whenever you are lobbying to the government, showcase that what benefits you can bring and be, act as in a very positive way. I think that's very important.
And I think lawmakers and policy people and folks in the White House, I mean, they are looking for, they do want, like you said, there's a political interest, in seeing the economy grow and, more jobs being created, more good paying jobs, more businesses being started. I mean, here in the U.S., we, have not gotten back to our rates of entrepreneurship. So there is sort of the, what can we do to encourage more business formation, and for those businesses that have started, how can we encourage growth? So they are looking for innovative policy solutions, and so I agree from the positive side, offering those innovative ideas, those positive ideas, you'll get a great reception.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to propose more than to criticize, and to show them a way of doing things that they might have not seen.
Right.
That works, I think, much better than just being critical.
Right, definitely. Is it, Marina, we'll stay with you. Is it difficult to get women entrepreneurs to work as a collective voice? Is it hard, and entrepreneurs in general, is it difficult to get everyone on the same page and to speak to the government in a positive voice, to have this policy reform dialogue?
Well, yes.
How do you overcome these challenges?
Some of the voices down, yes.
Yeah. In what ways have you faced these challenges, and do you have any words of advice or suggestions?
No, navigating Nicaragua is not easy. It's not an easy government to speak with. So you have to be really careful. And when we work with the advocacy group that we had to make them aware that it is not, confrontation is not the way, it's not going to work. So you have to be more subtle and to propose instead of criticize.
Yeah, sounds like good advice for Salima, with the Bangladesh Women's Chamber, the Bangladesh Women's Chamber has helped more than 7,000 women entrepreneurs in Bangladesh. From your personal experience, how is policy advocacy? All of these women that are associated with the Bangladesh Women's Chamber, are they all engaged in policy advocacy? And can you explain a little bit about the communication you have with your members?
So what we have done, again with CIPE, we have worked with that thing. That we have 7 divisions in Bangladesh, and each division has districts. So each divisions we formed 7 advocacy teams. And 7 advocacy team are expert, know about the policy which is not there and what need to be done. So we have like 3, mainly we are working on access to finance, access to market. The 2 issues was more important, and then capacity building. And then when we worked, made this advocacy team, so what we are doing, like, this advocacy team was trained. We all, they were in BWC's head office and they were trained. And they know what to do. So all the women entrepreneurs, all the members doesn't do advocacy. So there are leaders, so that's very important. That, when you would like to see the policy changes, or you, as you said again, the voice, you need to have leaders. So, and the grassroots leaders, voice from the grassroots, because if they speak, it becomes more effective. So these advocacy team actually advocated for any sort of issues they need to address. So that actually helped women entrepreneurs. And then in the national budget, we got a huge allocation of about $12 million. And with that money, we have trained 5,000 women entrepreneurs in 64 districts of Bangladesh. And in coming, we are going to have a training with 120 small cities. Again, 5,000 women entrepreneurs. We have constructing a 8-story building for women entrepreneurs hostel. So we are going to have that, and we are going to have 7 resource centers. So how we got all this? Ultimately, all our policy advocacy. Because, and that, how can we have it? Having the advocacy team. Because, if I go only, if the Dhaka-based women entrepreneurs, our board members go, people will say, oh, these are the women who are powerful coming and asking for this. But when you do that movement with the grassroots entrepreneur, with all over the country, that really makes a difference. That actually helps you to reach your goal. I think, it's like the supply chain and the value chain, everyone working with the same goal. And that's what I learned, Mark McCourt, he taught us, who was doing our advocacy training. He said to us, Selima, remember, all of your members should work together for same goal, that what you want to reach as a women's organization. And all of you work together, and one day you will reach that goal. And also he said to me, I remember, that you should have lots of information. When you will have information as a women's business organization, you will become powerful. And that's what happened, because now anything about women entrepreneurship, the government or the media or any activists, anyone would like to know, they would like to call us, and they call us. And we're like a, upper hand, because we have all the information. So you become powerful. Because government also sometimes needs some information. So what to get it? Or call BWCC and get that information. So I think these are important, that, if because at the end of the day, power matters. And then power is not muscle power. Power is having more information. Power bringing changes into the women's lives, power of showing the country that you are doing a great work as an organization, and you are bringing changes. And so now in Bangladesh, now whatever we used to say, now I could see that the policymakers are saying, it's like on behalf of us they are saying it, because they find it that this is a good word, and this is a good things to do, because this will give benefits to them as a political person.
Definitely. Marina, Nicaragua sounds like a challenging environment for entrepreneurs, perhaps especially women entrepreneurs. How is REN, addressing those challenges with your policy advocacy? Can you tell us a little bit about how
we had to build a lot of alliances. First among women organizations, businesswomen organizations. There were a couple other organizations working in different things, so we united everybody into one
coalition?
One group, that is the one that built the National Businesswoman Agenda. And that was the first alliance. And the second alliance we made was with the small enterprise, SMEs or Council, which is also an organization that gathers a lot of micro entrepreneurs, or like the people who make bread, the people who make shoes, whatever. So it's a big council. So we also made an alliance with them. So I think alliances have been one of our best strategies, you know, to build alliance with people that are advocating for the same issues. And that gives you a stronger voice with the government. It's not just a group, but a wider group trying to promote some policies. So I think that has been key for us to have success. Working with the media has been very important too. You know,
Interesting.
Putting in the national agenda some of the issues, like the issue access to credit for women, has been very important.
Right.
We're now thank that we have put into the agenda the issue of credit. We are working with banks on financial education. They are teaching women how to write the loan, how to access a loan, the things they have to do.
Right.
They're becoming interested in teaching women to do it.
That's great.
You know, before that there was, you know.
Right. Right.
And I think that has to do with all the media attention that has been put into the access to credit issues that we have put, you know, we're constantly putting in the media.
Yeah. So are you working directly with the media? Are you doing trainings with the media to
No, not with
spread
the
the
media.
word?
We have been meeting with the media, but we have we're working with the banks on access to credit education. But I think that is also very key, that you get the media involved into what we need.
Definitely. Perhaps we should go to question and answer?
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we go to question and answer, before today's event, I was speaking with Mr. Cano, who is the Senior Economic Growth Advisor at USAID's Office of Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. And I was wondering, Wade, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about USAID's gender programming before we start with question and answer.
Pleasure and privilege to be here. I have to say, listening to the three of you gives me a lot of hope, and I'll tell you why. I am a history student as well as a federal government employee. And one of the things I've discovered in reading political and economic history is that there's this interesting dynamic that throughout history at many points you find that power leads to money, or money leads to power. And it becomes a cycle. It becomes a closed cycle where power and money close in and exclude those who don't already have it. And as I have fought working with CIPE, working with others at USAID, entrenched interest and monopolistic approaches and cartels in my career in development, I very slowly came to see that there was a closed cycle where 50% was being left out of the power money equation. And that was women. Women in the economy, women not in the economy, women held out of the economy in part, as you mentioned, Samira. The statistics on violence are horrifying. Bangladesh, unfortunately, is worse than most, but the global average is 35% of women will have experienced physical or sexual violence in their lives already. 35%. That's a pretty good way to keep one group out of the space of the other group. So we are working on that. At USAID, we are working in a number of ways. One is just overall, I loved hearing you say, you know, you have the same problems that men have, but what we do know is bad regulation hurts everybody, but it really hurts women. So we focus on things like bad regulation. And if we focus on it from a gender perspective, we get everyone. If we just focus on it gender blind, which gender blind probably should be renamed gender dumb. Usually when we're gender blind, we are just missing such a big picture. You just feel dumb when you finally see it. But while we work to improve the overall enabling environment, and that's been my career until a few years ago when I realized, you know, the bad enabling environment hurts everyone, but it really hurts women. If we focus on the gender issues within the enabling environment, we will pick up everyone. So focusing on the entrepreneurship barriers for women also benefits men. It benefits everyone in the country. The opportunity to make changes that enable women to enter the economy more effectively, to thus have money, which does mean power, whether we like that combination or not, philosophically or whatever reason. That's the way the world is. And it is exciting to see women pulling together and having the voice. And the voice opens the doors. The voice opens the doors to everyone. And that is what I hope you will be seeing more and more of USAID's work doing, that as we address entrepreneurship, enabling environment, democracy and rights and governance, you will see that we have actually effectively woven gender issues and gender questions into that. And we are directly in everything we're doing, our new mandate, and look for this if you work with us. Our new mandate is to respond to and prevent gender-based violence in everything we do, whether that's macroeconomic policy, education, democracy, or entrepreneurship. So again, I listen, I hear what, actually you may have noticed me being rude, being on my phone. I'm trying something, I'm a little old for it, but I did it anyway. I was tweeting something from each of you.
That's good. Get on that phone more. We like that.
So I did that because what you've got to say needs to be heard. So thank you for sharing this.
Thank you. It's wonderful.
All right, questions. Let's see. How about we begin with Marina's daughter in the front row?
Should I stand up?
Sure, yes.
Hi, I'm Marina's daughter. The question is, how do you deal with cultural sensitivity issues when it comes to gender? And what role does secularism play in women's entrepreneurship, especially when it comes to the economic sector, as well as public policy and foreign policy as well?
Question. Each of our panelists would like to take that on? Okay, we'll start with Karen and then we'll move over.
So is your question, how do we tackle that, or?
Right. I mean, I guess we all agree that that's something that we do need to tackle. So yeah, what are some problem-solving issues, or how do you get around that in order to have gender equality when it comes to those?
You mean where discrimination exists, or?
Where discrimination exists, but you might find it hard to, you find that cultural sensitivity because of religious right and their opinions on women. How do you tackle that? Personally, I just I just do it still. I don't know. I know it's different in other countries, but I think it's not like when we, again, talking about the importance of women's economic empowerment, women's entrepreneurship, the critical role that they also play in terms of the growth of the economy, the need for good paying jobs, the innovative capacity of the country, getting to where the country and its leaders want to be as a country. Again, there's a political interest, that I've seen globally traveling around, that no matter, what type of leader it may be, how free the country might be, whether I've been in Belarus or the Mideast or North Africa, that there is this need and this sentiment among the political leaders that in order to have the political stability that they want, that there has to be the economic growth and a vibrant economy in order to have that stability. So I think, I know when I've traveled, I know the leaders in those countries have sort of played to that. And if you're going to, have that economic growth, you're going to have to include other 50%, you know, of the economy. And also, I mean, there are women leaders and successful women entrepreneurs in those countries that can also speak to that. And I mean, and they've done that in a way, I think, that is politically more sensitive, perhaps, in those countries. I don't know if we have to worry about that much here in the U.S. I think if people are ignorant, they're ignorant. You know what I mean? And we're just. But anyway, I just. That's just sort of my initial random thoughts. So.
In Bangladesh, we have the, not very strong way, but recently we had some of these issues very much on the media, and some, you know, what imam, I don't know exactly how I should address, but it was in a television and everywhere in channels that, you know, he was saying that, you know, women should be at home, women should be only educated to do some accounting for her financial matters dealing at home and be at home. But I think in Bangladesh, we women are quite strong. I have received lots of telephone calls, threatened, that telling me that you are taking all our women outside the home. Who is going to take care of us? Who is going to take care? So I always say, I think it's a very interesting idea you have given me, but come and make an appointment and I can meet you and we can talk. And they never came. So these are the people who are coward. They can't come in front of you. And I think we should not worry about them. And because in everyone, it's a human nature. It's not only the religious group. It's a human nature. When you are successful or when you are becoming noticed, there will be a group of people who will not like you or who would like to be your enemy. I mean, this is happening. So why I do only blame the religious people? There are other people also who try to stop you. So take it in that way. And I think having the Chamber of Commerce is the best thing, that you have a group of women where you become strong, you are powerful. Because I know that if anything even happens to me, there are a group of women who will take it forward. And I'll be protected and guarded by these women. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I've never thought of, or my members or women entrepreneurs of Bangladesh have never thought of. But one of the things very, very crucial is safe mobility. That is very crucial for the development. Safe mobility, and also the social barriers, the domestic violence, the violence in the street, in the road. So these are the things how we can move. That's why you need a good governance, a rule of law. Because without that's why democracy is important. Because if you don't have democracy, that rule of law is not there. And then this safe mobility, this accountability is not there. Because we have seen that many men has done something wrong and they are never punished because they bribe and they can get along with things. Why Rana Plaza happened? Because of one of the issues is lack of good governance. Because if that building code was, you know, the inspector would have taken care of, it would not have happened. So that's why the democracy and development is all connected, and good governance is very, very important. I never think about a single fundamentalist or religious group, because let them do their work and let us do our work.
And I think that's very representative of the women leaders that I've met with, you know, across the globe, you know, that they just continue to do and persevere and do the right thing. And you can tell their leadership is selfless.
Right.
And I mean, even when I started SBE Council over 20 years ago, I mean, you definitely felt, and I still feel it, I mean, there are always protectionists, you know, turf issues involved, you know, with other organizations. And I got phone calls as well, you know, about, well, what are you doing? You know, that's our issue. And I'm like, what? Or all of us, I mean, there's enough issues to be working on. All of us should be working together, you know, to push these things. I'm glad, you know, that you're saying that, because, again, that gives me a lot of hope.
Definitely.
No, and I think it's changing, you know, and people are going to change. Even in a very machista culture, if a family is better off because the woman has a business, they're going to change, and the sons are going to see the mother doing it, so they're going to, you know, it's gradually. And if you have models and role models for others to follow, that's going to change. And something religion is not going to stop, you know, especially if economic welfare is seen by the family. So I think that's not a big issue. It's part of the changes on the body. And the more good role models you have a woman, the better. And for me, and I always say that the best strategy for to stop women's violence is woman economic empowerment.
Definitely. Yeah, 100%. And thank you for that excellent question. Let's see.
In the back,
A woman
right there.
standing in the back?
Highway, I'm also from USAID. And this conversation is kind of difficult to handle. The reason being, I came here for women's entrepreneurship and voice being a small piece. So I'd like to hear more about the women entrepreneurship part of it. The percentage of women doing what kind of business, selling to whom, what kind of profitability. I think that's the conversation we should have as well.
Okay. Anyone want to talk about entrepreneurship? Karen, I mean, you're the
Well, I think, I mean,
expert.
yeah, I mean, it's how women entrepreneurship can help, you know, sort of the economic empowerment piece. So that, you know, sort of, I think the title pretty much spoke for, you know, we sort of hit upon what the title was. But, you know, I mean, obviously throughout the globe, entrepreneurship is booming. I know, you know, I could just speak to U.S. statistics in terms of the, you know, nearly 10 million women entrepreneurs, 1.5, you know, trillion, you know, they're growing at twice the rate, you know, of all businesses. They are, you know, are represented now in almost every, you know, sector of the economy. You know, we talked about some of the challenges in terms of, you know, the access to markets, access to capital. You know, I would say the biggest thing from a women entrepreneur perspective here in the U.S., you know, that may be holding women back, that sort of ties into, I think, some of the advocacy piece that we talked to as well, is the whole notion of the mindset for growth. Because we have, you know, a lot of very small, you know, women businesses, you know, self-employed women. We are getting better in terms of building the growth-oriented bit. The number of growth, 10 million, 1 million, 10 million, you know, plus businesses are beginning to pick up and accelerate that are owned by women. But what, you know, what really matters now in terms of how we grow those businesses is just sort of the mindset for growth. And if you start your business with a mindset for growth, then you're going to gravitate to the people, the training, the mentors, you know, the type of assistance and things that you're going to need in order to grow your businesses. So, but I don't know, on the women's entrepreneurship, I mean, that's, I mean, I can spout statistics if you want, you know, in terms of U.S. women's entrepreneurs, but.
Well, maybe Marina,
Statistics are very poor on women's entrepreneurs in Nicaragua. To be honest, that's one of the things we say that we need to know more about it, and there needs to be much more research, because it's really hard to have good public policies without statistics. You know, so that's the first thing that we are trying to lobby. That's part of the agenda of businesswomen. We don't have good statistics. Very, very weak statistics on access to credit. Very, very weak statistics on the amount, on the percentage of SMEs that are owned by women. They are very, very, very poor. On leadership, for example, on associability, how many women are in the chambers of the different associations, business associations? We don't have them. You know, they haven't been. And it's something very easy to do. I mean, just have the sex of the person. They don't have it. Something as simple as that is not being done. So it's something that you know everybody needs to do. To have to do good policy, you need good statistics.
Right. Yeah.
We don't have them.
Yeah, I think that's something that Bangladesh,
Yeah.
you've done to gather those statistics.
We
working with
have,
banks.
yeah, we have some statistics. We have seen that what has affected through the entrepreneurship. You know, I just like to come with that we are now moving towards sustainable development goal, and there is one thing that bringing gender equality and reducing poverty, because poverty is another thing which brings all the problems, because the peace is not there in the community, in the household, and in the nation. Poverty makes also or creates lots of corruption also. So if we can bring more women into entrepreneurship, the poverty will reduce, and that will allow Bangladesh and other country to flourish, and also reduce conflict, because conflict happens when and also trafficking, the violence and the drugs, all these are used when poverty is there. So I see Bangladesh, if I'd like to say prosperous Bangladesh, then I could see that Bangladesh, where there are so many women who are not very educated, and how they are going to do their livelihood, and that livelihood is through entrepreneurship. Because even if you would like to be a worker, then you have to move out from your house, you migrate, even within your country, from your city you go to the bigger city. But here you are staying in your own community, in your own house, with your social norms, but bringing that, reducing the poverty, doing a social changes. And I think entrepreneurship is very, very crucial in the social development. And if you think that what is the tool for development, for me, if there is a tool for development, more effective, we would like to see, that is through women entrepreneurship and women's economic empowerment. And I think we women have to take the lead. And of course, if we can have more men like John, Andrew, Mark, Kim, and you, and other men who are sitting here, I think we along with them, we will, of course, we will lead, but we can bring peace in the nation. It's very important. And democracy will flourish. What is democracy? As you say, voice.
Of having a voice.
And we can do it.
So thank you, Selena.
Let me add also, I'd be more than happy to take your card, because we have a lot of links and studies, the Babson study, a whole bunch of different studies to sort of estimate, global women's entrepreneurship and some of the countries and all that. So I'd be more than happy to.
I guess the biggest part is, if I may, I don't think this is the kind of conversation that male entrepreneurs want to have. It would be more like, how can we be successful, why we are not successful, where we have the greatest opportunity. And the whole piece about voice is important, but I think what we want to do is be empowered to say, where do we go, how do we do it, who's doing it, why are we doing it, where are the greatest successes, and that's the piece I think we're missing today.
No, that's an excellent point.
Right. And there are a lot of events, whether it's locally or nationally, that are focused on just that. I mean, all the, educational forums and events, that sort of the how-tos and all that.
Oh, you have the answer. Yes, please.
Marsha Rose, I'm here with the Entrepreneurs Organization. I know one of my colleagues is here. And I wanted to come today because when, because when I heard what the topic was, I'm leading an effort with our organization, which we have over 11,000 members, to increase female entrepreneurs. We have 11%, and there are women that qualify for the organization. We find that with our program for accelerators, where we mentor and support them into being multi-million-dollar companies, and then we work with students. So we have to collaborate. I mean, it's critical. And for me, the reason I wanted to be here is because we have chapters that need to open where we have women who have businesses who are sustaining their communities, but they don't have the resources. So for us to come in, we have to look at organizations they're already doing great work, and how can we partner, how can we look at, we've got the tools, we've got the mentors, we've got the curriculum, and you know, I've been living and breathing it for 20 years as a U.S. entrepreneur, but I do a lot of volunteering, so I thank all of you for putting together this panel. And I think my colleague, she wanted to ask something because I was late getting it.
Great.
Hi, I'm Miranda Barrett with the Entrepreneurs Organization, as Marsha mentioned. And at EO, I operate a program for university students who are actually running their own businesses in their own right, some of them quite large. And in speaking with these students over the years, what we hear as one of their biggest obstacles, particularly outside of the US, is the lack of acceptance of entrepreneurship as a legitimate career path for young people. You know, here in the US, we're fortunate that, you know, it's the new cool thing, but, you know, in certain parts of the world, parents want their kids to be doctors and lawyers, and they don't want to hear that they're interested in starting a business. So my question for you is this something that you've all encountered, you know, in your lines of work and in your countries, and do you feel that the tide might be shifting for this and that entrepreneurship is being seen as a more legitimate career path for young people?
Excellent question.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because, you know, for last 2 years I'm teaching in the university. So, and my class is entrepreneurship development. And some of the students came to me and said, you know, they were graduated, they want to start a business, and I said the girlfriend's family is not agreeing him to marry her because he will do business. So they were saying that you do a job, then we can do it. So they were a big problem. Then I said, okay, take the job, and after marrying, leave the job, you know. But see, on the serious note is that for the educated people, it's more challenging because the family wants you to start a career. But for the non-educated people, people want, okay, you do start something. But we have to actually promote that risks are there, opportunities are there, and entrepreneurship, what are the benefits of entrepreneurship. That message, I think we need to talk more, you know, and also showcase the success stories. As you were saying about the role model, you know, to encourage the people. And also we also need to encourage the parents to support their children if they have a dream, you know, because that dream need to be supported by this. So, and for the entrepreneurship, I think 3 things are very, very important. One is access to finance, access to market, and capacity building. How to do the entrepreneurship. I always say that everyone, you know, people say everyone cannot be entrepreneur, but I say many can be entrepreneur, because in Hatia, when we had a project, it's a remote island, no electricity, nothing, and going there takes you about two days. But when we trained into improved cook stoves, that how to manufacture improved cook stoves, they learned it, and now 400 women has turned into entrepreneurs selling improved cook stoves. And now we are doing a project where the solar electric pole will be established, and we'll train the women into entrepreneurship, how to manage and that electric, you know, solar panel poles, electric poles. So if you can educate and motivation, and that's why that motivation is very important. We need people, champions who will talk about it. The positive side of entrepreneurship is very, very important.
Right now, how
I
about
think that is changing a lot in Nicaragua. More and more the universities have entrepreneurs programs, competitions, and that is really changing. And we see a lot of young people going into their business right even before they finish school. We have one of our members at Ren, she started her business as part of a business class competition, and she's now growing really, really well. And she came out of one of these entrepreneurs programs. And she's doing,
excellent
she's
success
doing
story.
great. I mean, she's an amazing kid, and I think more and more you start to see that the universities are pushing entrepreneurship in their programs. And for example, we work a lot with those programs, and I think they need to be encouraged at all levels.
Definitely. Thank you for that question.
I think it is changing because of the young people and because of women, you know, who are becoming entrepreneurs in those countries. So certainly their citizens, their families are beginning to get a different picture of entrepreneurship or what entrepreneurship means. So information is power, you know, in terms of how entrepreneurship works in other countries. And, you know, not every person that starts a business is going to be a corrupt, you know, because I know there's sort of that linkage between, oh, if you start a business and, you know what I mean, it's not really seen as legitimate and there's corruption involved with that. But I do think it's changing because the young people are making that happen, women are making that happen, and certainly the programs, you know, that we see, the entrepreneurial training programs, whether it's ones that are being developed and deployed by organizations or within colleges are making a huge difference. And the role models, I think, is critical as well.
Right, right. How about this woman in the front row?
My name is Stephanie. I work at the Department of State and I cover women's entrepreneurship in the Western Hemisphere. My question is really about access to credit and sort of additional barriers on the regulatory side, and if you've sort of seen any best practices from the banks that you've worked with in the past. And so, you know, accessing credit is sort of one step, and when you can get banks to lend to those women entrepreneurs, that's a huge win. But oftentimes that capital is very expensive, and that presents an additional barrier. And so have you seen any sort of progress made on that side of things that makes that capital access a little bit more affordable for a business moving from, say, a microfinance institution to a bigger bank, from small to medium?
Yeah, like which, can I?
Yes, please.
Bangladesh in the microcredit, the interest rates are like 20, 22, 24%. And the amount of loan is like $100 or $200. But when we started this policy advocacy and the circular we had, it is started about, I think, about $10,000 or $20,000 till $20,000 or $25,000. You get a bank loan without collateral and 10% rate of interest, the low rate of interest in the country. So that is why the policy advocacy is very important, because you have to showcase that we need a lower rate of interest or a reduced rate of interest. I should not say cheap money, but you know, very easy way to get the money, and which we did it. So you can, and the best practices is that 4,000, more than 4,000 women entrepreneurs has received that bank loan. And from a home-based woman entrepreneur, now she is having a shop in a big mall, shopping mall. So you can see the difference. Because of microcredit, she was doing home-based. And so when she wanted to move to a big shopping mall, she couldn't, because she need to have that money. And from the bank loan, as it is affordable, she could do it. And we also had a credit rating that if the bank doesn't the central bank has a credit rating. So if the commercial banks doesn't give 15% bank loan, so the credit rating, there is like A, B, C, D grade. Their grade will be lower. So banks are now, for their own sake, to uphold their credit rating status, they are keen to give loan to the women entrepreneurs. So that's why the regulatory reforms are very, very important.
We're looking for a way. I mean, we know that part of the problem is the risk norms. They apply the same risk, let's say, norm to a credit that is for a bank to lend, which is cheaper than the microfinancing. It has to be above $10,000. And what they apply for a loan of $10,000 is the same risk norm than for $100,000. We want to change that. That's part of that dialogue we're starting with the banks, because if they give out $10,000, they reduce the risk. So it should not apply the same norms and demand the same things for a 10,000 and for 100,000. So that's part of the debate we're starting with the banks to modify the risk norms for smaller credits. But what we have heard is that good practices are in the Dominican Republic and Bolivia. We're trying to study that, what they have done there.
Karen, do you have anything to?
No, I mean,
That's
only,
my
I mean, it would be
experience.
great, again, if, I mean, once, you know, some of the, you know, the newer, like, lending, you know, platforms that are making it easier to access capital. In some instances, you know, some of that money is not affordable. In many cases it is, but, I mean, certainly when there's more, you know, competition in these countries, and if there's a regulatory framework that allows for this type of, you know, access, whether it's, you know, a lending platform like a Lendio or Cabbage or what have you, you know, then I think the market responds to that. So I think that's part of the piece too, from a regulatory perspective, is having a competitive finance landscape, you know, to allow for more financing, and then hopefully that brings those costs down. So the price of capital down, the cost of capital.
Any other questions? In the second row.
I'm Denise Bear, here with CIPE, the evaluation officer, and I also work with our Women's Entrepreneurship Staff Forum. And my question is about some of the opportunities that may be available for women entrepreneurs. The new trade facilitation agreement offers great opportunities for expanding trade opportunities, and I was just wondering if how you all see the opportunities for women to do trading across borders, and also given that you've all worked with the women's associations and also chambers and business associations, do you think we need more regional associations for women entrepreneurs or global associations to help facilitate women traders? Thank you.
It's a tough question. Who wants to take it?
Well, I mean, I generally, I think trade offers a tremendous opportunity for women entrepreneurs, and I've been very supportive of these trade agreements, you know, to make that happen, because it opens up, you know, the world to products and services of women entrepreneurs, or any of these, you know, larger trade agreements that make that happen. So, but I think, I mean, the educational piece is an issue. I also think, you know, risk, you know, is an issue as well. I mean, it really helps, I think, when there's more economic certainty, you know, around the world, and then entrepreneurs are willing to take more risks in terms of, you know, going global and taking that risk to do so. I mean, certainly I think there's regulatory barriers that, well, hopefully these agreements, they do address. I mean, some of these complex regulatory issues as well. But I just think it's an enormous opportunity. I think there definitely needs to be, I know the International Trade Administration has great training programs. You know, the SBA in our country has some really good training programs. But I think the concept that you're talking about, sort of regional, you know, some type of regional group, yeah, I think may make sense, because yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, you know, in order to facilitate, you know, and to make that happen, because, well, it's again, it's a very risky thing to do, but still there's great opportunities, and for entrepreneurs that are going global and in different markets, I mean, they have more growth, they hire more, they innovate more, you know, the list goes on and on and on, but we just got to get them, many of them, to take that sort of first step, and that first country, and then when they have that success, go to the next one. So,
in our region, actually, if I talk about the South Asia region, for this trade facilitation or cross-border trade, one of the issues is you know, managing the border officials and the regulatory bodies like customs and this thing. We had a project with State Department. It was cross-border trade between Myanmar and India, the Kolkata border, women entrepreneurs, and I was in the border, in every border I went. So there are many of our members actually, and also Kolkata women entrepreneurs come to our part, do trade fairs, and again they go, our members go to Kolkata. But you know, mostly they go by bus. And when I landed there, I saw that actually there is no ladies' toilet. So mostly they come by bus, and then and overnight, and then there is no ladies' toilet. And then in the custom officials, is everywhere they're asking for bribes. So lots of harassment happen into whole that process. Again, this transparency and you know these things come up, and they hesitate. So once they go, and next step they don't want to go, having all these sufferings. So the capacity building of the entrepreneurs, knowing about the regulatory bodies and how to handle that situation is very important, and also having a gender-friendly environment in the customs and these borders are very, very important, because when I'm importing something, and then you know mostly women averse corruption. That's the nature of women entrepreneurs or women. They would like to avoid corruption. So when they see there are so many corruption issues, they try to avoid. So that's why if you see in the South Asia region, because I always say men are going from one part from the world, you know, from Bangladesh to India, India to Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. Why we women entrepreneurs are not doing trade? Because there are lots of things where you can do businesses, but because of all these things. So these are the things which we need to address, and also the connectivity. You know, you remember, so going to Nepal, we have to go via Delhi.
Right.
So the connectivity is also an issue.
Right.
That actually can increase more trade between the region.
Right.
I believe stronger organization, regional organization can help. There is a lot of lack of information about trade agreements and how to do things. It's very bureaucratic, and most women in Nicaragua are in the SME sector, so they're working more into the local market. As they grow, they can go out, but first they need to start at the local local market. There are some excellent organizations in Nicaragua helping export, and there are some very successful stories of Nicaraguan businesswomen already exporting. But they need that support from specialized organizations. We as REN do not specialize in
trade facilitation.
Right. But there are some organizations that do an amazing job. For example, we are doing a lot of, like you wouldn't think about it, but a lot of fashion, a group of fashion, women in fashion, that through a business association that specializes in trade facilitation, that are doing an amazing job. But stronger ties and regional organizations can really help.
Yeah, I think if entrepreneurs feel if they have a voice or some type of representation on the ground, that will help. I mean, particularly when the issues are pretty complex, right? I know a lot of entrepreneurs, again, are very concerned about their intellectual property, you know, and I know we've made some gains on that issue, and there is more respect, you know, for intellectual property is growing. But, you know, again, if they're having like an IP issue, if someone's stealing their stuff or replicated their stuff, I mean, who can they go to on the ground that help? I mean, they don't have the resources, right? So, you know, maybe this type of regional chamber that you're talking about could be that type of representation they actually need on the ground to get through an issue like that, for example.
Interesting. Are there any other questions from the audience? All right. Okay, if there are no more questions, I want to thank our panelists very much for spending the time today speaking with all of us. How about a round of applause for